Okay, let's start. Um, who are you? Where are you coming from?
Listen, I come to this country from an immigrant household from Venezuela. My family came here from Venezuela with very little, but with big dreams, a strong work ethic, and a deep belief in the power of community and the power of hard work and the power of opportunity. I grew up watching my dad, who's a Christian, ordained Christian pastor, open our home to people, to neighbors, to friends, sometimes even complete strangers, because that's what community meant to him. To him, community meant you show up for people, you build together, even when it's uncomfortable, even when it's painful, you still show up. And I was constantly reminded growing the importance of loving your neighbor, the importance of doing unto others as we would have them do unto us. And my parents very much lived that out day in and day out. And that shaped how I see the world. Professionally, I spent the last decade at Google, leading Google's philanthropic work at google.org, working at the intersection of job creation, education, economic opportunity, and advanced technologies like artificial intelligence, helping people gain the skills to be able to participate in an increasingly tech-enabled modern economy. And how do we ensure that people have access to upward mobility, to good jobs, and a lot of the things that I think are incredibly, and increasingly important for the members of the community in Florida's 28th congressional district. I've had the opportunity to work with nonprofits, small businesses, elected leaders, really trying to answer a simple question: how do we expand opportunity for more people, especially those that have been left out? And I've seen what works. I've seen how the private sector, when it's aligned with community and good policy, can actually create real scalable impact. But I've also seen where the system falls short. And because today, far too many families, especially right here in South Florida. South Florida was just named, sadly, the epicenter of the inaffordability crisis in this country, of the inflation crisis in this country. Families across South Florida are doing everything right, playing by the rules, working incredibly hard, and they're still falling further and further behind. And that's what led me to run. I'm not a career politician. I'm just someone who has spent my life working on these problems. And now I want to bring my experience and the solutions that I've been able to lean into public service to help fix what's become a broken system.
What was that breaking point? When you actually said, you know what, I have to do something.
Listen, I think one of my biggest drivers was the birth of my son. We have in a year and a half old son at home, and having him join us in this journey of life was a key awakening moment for me in terms of the type of country, state, community, society that he's going to inherit, and also being fully cognizant that right now we're going through a range of inflection points in our country and our society. We're going through an inflection point economically? Do we still believe in the promise of the American dream, especially in a moment in time when everything, rent, food, the mortgage, health insurance, everything feels increasingly out of reach?
Gas.
Uh, Gas, yeah, don't get me started on gas. But right now, it's been sitting well above $4 in the 28th congressional district, and that's been a big inflection point, and one that keeps getting increasingly augmented. There's an inflection point democratically. Are we still a nation of laws? Do we still believe in the rule of law? As an inflection point socially, do we see one another as fellow human beings? Do we see each other as fellow Americans first and foremost, or do we see each other as political enemies if we happen to sit on different sides of the political aisle? And I would argue all of this is being augmented and accelerated in a profound way by technology. Technology, artificial intelligence is here to stay, and I believe that it can be a technology that can be used for tremendous good. But if we don't put in the right policies, if we don't if we don't put into place the right rules for the road, these technologies can also help concentrate wealth and power in the hands of fewer and fewer people. And that's why I believe this is a key essential moment to be stepping up to the plate and leaving it all in the field.
And what are you hearing? I mean, what people in that district in Florida 28, Carlos Jimenez district, what the constituents are telling you. What are the reality? Because what we see sometimes in the media is important, but the reality of the regular folks out there, regular people, the struggling is real. The
Yeah.
struggle is real, and the pain is also real, and the fear and the uncertainty. So I would like you to let us know what is your experience with those constituents right now.
Let me paint you a quick picture into Florida's 28th congressional district. The 28th congressional district is most of West and South Miami-Dade County and all of Monroe County. Monroe County is all of the Florida Keys. It includes world-class academic institutions like the one that I spent 4 years at and graduated from, Florida International University. It also includes some of the vast agricultural parts of South Florida in Homestead and the Redlands. It includes military bases. It includes the power plant that powers most of South Florida, and a big part of the tourism hub in the Everglades and the Keys. And the reality of this district is that this district is the frontier, the final boundary between affordability and inaffordability in South Florida. It's been the place where people have gotten pushed out from the urban core when the urban core has become increasingly expensive and inaccessible. So people are commuting in and out from the center, from downtown Miami and the like, to get to work, and then they go back to parts like Homestead and West Kendall, which is where they might be able to afford a home. And I say might because the entry point for a home in Florida's 28th congressional district is on average about $500,000. And when people are making less than $20 an hour in the district, which is far below the statewide average, this becomes quite inaccessible. Another reality of the district is that about 1 in 8 residents in Florida's 28th congressional district lives in poverty. About 1 in 7 residents is food insecure. This, of course, impacts seniors, children disproportionately, and it's a district that where the true middle class and working class of South Florida, that's where they reside, and these are the people that are facing the pain and the struggle of the inaffordability crisis day in and day out. These are the people for whom gas being over $4 a gallon, that means, hey, they might not be able to put that extra meal on the table this month. That means they might get behind on their monthly mortgage or rent payments. That means they might have to choose to postpone a medical procedure because they won't have enough to make do this month and this go around. And the other reality of this district is that this district is disproportionately Latino. 75% of the 28th congressional district is Hispanic, right? So I think in many ways this very much represents some of the struggles and some of the challenges that the Latino community is facing in this moment in time, and a lot of that has to do with pocketbook issues.
Yes, and with that elephant in the room that is immigration. What is your position on immigration? And with again the pain, the uncertainty, the even persecution that 70% of that community on Florida 28, their families, their friends, their neighbors, their coworkers are suffering right now. What is
Yeah.
your view of all of this?
Yeah, listen, the other reality of this district is that part of this district also housed the Chrome detention facility, which you might remember that was the facility where kids were being separated from their parents during the last Trump administration. This district is also on the boundary line, on the border of what is now known as Alligator Alcatraz, which again is another terrible, terrible place where people are being treated inhumanely, where their civil liberties and their constitutional rights are being violated day in and day out by an agency that's rogue and completely out of control. And what I will tell you is this, that, and what I hear day in and day out from people in the district is, hey, Latinos believe in law and order, but not in policies that punish families indiscriminately. And one of the things that I've been saying since day one in this campaign trail is that we are often sold a story and a narrative that's binary and that's overly simplified. You're either pro strong border and pro law and order, or you're pro the dignified treatment of immigrants and dignified treatment of people. And my argument is that those things are not mutually exclusive. Those things have to be integrated, and we have to be sending people to Washington that are going to do the hard work, the leadership that is that this moment necessitates, which is integrating those two elements in a responsible and thoughtful way. And I would also argue that when immigration enforcement starts hitting Venezuelans and Cubans who have fled dictatorships, who know all too well what what socialism at its worst can look like, this begins to become a real challenge and a real issue for our community. And again, I believe that we can we can have secure borders and still treat people with the dignity and the humanity that they deserve.
Actually, Congressman Jimenez was at the so-called alligator Alcatraz inauguration with such a big smile. And actually, I remember he also went to Crum Detention Center a few months ago. Whenever the organizations were denouncing the situation and the treatment and the overcrowding conditions on that detention center, the inhumane conditions, and he went and he said everything was perfectly fine. And he was also one of the congresswomen that voted to pass the so-called Big Beautiful Bill
Mhm.
and some other bills that are not making any good, not only to Florida 28 constituents, but honestly to Americans in general. But since
Yeah.
we are talking about Florida and about his district, what will you do different? How do you see all of these things that have been happening with him?
Yeah, listen, one of the things that I think everybody that we're sending to Washington needs to be doing differently, including Congressman Jimenez, is they need to be accountable to the people that elected them, and they need to actually represent the voices of the people that elected them. One of the things that I'm most disappointed by Congressman Jimenez is his constant bending of the knee to anything that's coming out of the White House and anything that's coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. He was not sent to Washington, D.C. to represent Donald Trump. He was sent to Washington, D.C. to represent the people of the 28th Congressional District. And when the people of that district are telling him that they can't afford to pay for rent, that they can't afford access to quality healthcare that is honoring their time, their wallet, and their dignity. When they're telling them that they're struggling to make it through every single month, and that they want to be united with their families, that their families are hardworking, that they're doing everything right, they're playing by the rules, and he's going out there passing bills like the Big Beautiful Bill, passing bills like the bill that removed Affordable Care Act subsidies to 5 million Floridians, many of which live in Florida's 28th congressional district. I mean, he literally casted a vote to help increase by 200 to 300% the premiums that people under the Affordable Care Act are paying in this moment in time. He's also passed bills to provide unaccountable amounts of money to ICE, which we know right now is an agency that is operating with impunity and is operating without any sort of guardrail, constitutional or otherwise, is an agency that Democrats have been fighting tooth and nail to rein in and to put some safeguards in place to make sure that some of the tragic things that we have seen over the past several months don't continue to happen. Both the immigrants that are here lawfully, immigrants that might be here unlawfully, and to American citizens all the same. And he, he's been giving them a free pass and a blank check. So when we come for his job and when we remove him from this seat and when I get to Washington, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make sure that we're listening to the people that send me to Washington, and we're going to make sure that we're giving them real solutions, not more political theater.
Now, I would like for our audience to know what is your view, what is your position with all of these threats to democracy that we are witnessing right now in the United States. And I ask you that because you and me are Venezuelans. We are immigrants and we have seen this movie. We know where we come from. We know what actually what is still happening back in Venezuela
Yeah.
because the regime is still there. We caught one head of the monster, but the monster is alive and kicking in Venezuela. And sadly now protected and empowered by the Trump administration and the United States. So, what do you think about that? What can you tell our audience of your position? Because our goal here is that they know you and they know where you are and they know why they have to support you and they know why we have so much faith that we can definitely uh, um, switch. We can get you to Congress in November.
Yeah, thank you for that question. Listen, I think for me, this starts with the acknowledgement that democracy is not guaranteed. It's something that you have to protect, something that you have to fight for. My family, like yours, comes from Venezuela. We have seen what happens when institutions start to weaken and fall apart, when leaders begin to attack the press, when the courts lose their independence, when power gets concentrated in the hands of fewer and fewer hands, or in the case of Venezuela, in the hands of one person. It doesn't happen overnight. It happens like a slow drip, step by step. And that's why I think we need to be very vigilant here in the US, because we're seeing a lot of these patterns repeat themselves with the current administration in terms of attacking the press, in terms of consolidating power, in terms of creating a hyper-partisan Supreme Court. And and I think that pattern is a pattern that we all need to pause around. And threats to democracy, I think, don't always show up as something dramatic. I think in some cases it does. And the U.S. sometimes it feels like it might be showing up that way, but sometimes they look like the slow erosion of trust, or turning neighbors against one another, telling them that these people here are subhuman, they're less worthy of the dignity that they deserve. Much of the language that we hear from our current president, um, calling people bastards and calling them monsters, simply because they don't share his worldview. And listen, I believe in a country where no one is above the law, where elections are respected, where the press is free, where government is accountable to the people, where the free markets operate in a way that they earn the trust of the people as well. That is not a partisan idea. That is the foundation of who we are as a country. And if we lose that, then nothing else we care about, the economy, opportunity, security, none of it holds.
Yes. And if you will have to tell what are your three priorities whenever you get to the Hill, what those will be?
Listen, I think first and foremost, I've kind of been talking a lot about this, but we need to be making sure that America's working class and middle class are strengthened. If these communities can't afford the basics, then nothing else matters. We really can't be asking for much else, right? And I think that's particularly true for Latinos. I mean, we saw Latinos in the last cycle. I would argue they casted a vote for Republicans, not because of some ideological alignment, but because they were discontent with where the economy was and they wanted different results. And I think we see something very similar this go around in the fact that the current administration and the Republican Party promised Latinos and everyone in this country that we'd be living through the best economy ever, and instead we have the highest gas prices ever, and the most unaffordable homes ever, and the most unaffordable healthcare ever. And I think people are going to be voting in a way that's going to be a realignment behind true solutions that can bring costs down and can bring costs under control. One of the ways that we're proposing doing that on my campaign is by eliminating federal income tax for households earning less than $150,000. If we do that, that would bring immediate relief to roughly 80% of households across the state of Florida. I would imagine it's something similar across the country, putting up to $17,000 back in the pockets of those households. That, by the way, translates to roughly a full year's worth of groceries plus 6 months worth of mortgage payments for the average Florida family, which would be tremendous relief for Floridians. The second piece is if we think affordability is out of control right now, and we think that jobs are hard to come by right now, it's hard to imagine, but right now with this technological inflection point we're going through, things could get dramatically worse if we're not really intentional and really careful around ensuring that the technologies that we're rolling out around artificial intelligence and the like are rolled out in such a way that they are net positive and supporting people getting into new jobs, into new industries, as opposed to, again, concentrating wealth in the hands of fewer and fewer people and fewer companies and fewer industries. So again, that to me is my second priority is really how do we provide some thoughtful guardrails to the innovation and the technology that's being rolled out in a way that both honors, yeah, we got to be staying at the helm of innovation and be the leading country when it comes to artificial intelligence, but we also need to do that in a way that's responsible and that it safeguards the communities that we're aiming to create opportunity for. And then the third piece is we really have to invest in regaining the trust that people have lost in government. And I think that partially begins through accountability. I think that partially also begins by recalibrating the role that dark money plays, corporate money plays, super PAC money plays in elections, that largely revolves around ensuring that elected officials answer to and are accountable to the people that elected them, not to dark money and not to super PACs and not to the billionaire class. So I think those are kind of the three big anchor points that I believe if we reestablish, we can really begin to rebuild towards the promise of the American dream.
Amen. I wish, I hope, and we're gonna fight with you to make this a reality and to get you to Congress. I know firsthand that people, not only here in Florida, but especially here in Florida, people are suffering. Inflation is the highest in the country. Gas prices are one of the highest in the country right now, the average, and I know people is tired, exhausted, afraid, and and even though, especially since the pandemic, the situation has been really tough and difficult. I know that now more than ever, with everything that is happening with this war in Iran, that I still many of them and many of us don't really understand just yet everything that is actually happening. At this point, we don't know who's telling the truth, who's not telling the truth. And that's sad and very concerning that we cannot trust what our government is saying every
Right.
single day. And I think that's something that you should work for, you should fight for. And before we finish, I would like you, for the people that don't know how to reach you, how to reach your team, how to donate to your campaign that is so important. The only way to win these campaigns, my friends, is donating your money, no matter how small your donation is, and if you can, some of your time to be a volunteer. So, what they can do to help you.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation. Listen, our website, hectormujica.com. Mujica's Mujica.com. If you go to our website, you'll find a place to sign up to volunteer. You'll also find our donation link. Of course, this campaign is built, and the rocket ship that we're trying to launch runs on very expensive rocket fuel. And every single dollar goes towards building a stronger team that can help us get out the word of the campaign to more and more people. So I always tell folks we need dollars, we need validation, and we need amplification. So if you have dollars to pitch in and support, we'll welcome from that, and we'd be really appreciative. And then if you have validation and amplification on your social media, I mean, we often forget that we are micro influencers to our families, we are micro influencers to our immediate communities. Being able to share the word with folks in your networks, being able to post something about this campaign on your social media, being able to amplify or just follow one of our accounts and help us amplify the word, that can be exponential and helping us get in front of more and more people. So all those things, all of them add up and really help us break through, and they'll help us ultimately be able to win this seat back.
Never, like, never before, in such a long time, Florida is also in play in many different seats. And this is an opportunity that we have to take advantage of. This is an opportunity to improve the lives of millions of Floridians that really don't deserve to be suffering what they are suffering in so many different ways. We are fighting here in Florida, as we all are fighting all over the country, to save our democracy and to make the changes to stop all of this madness and all of this destruction of what we knew as America until not that long ago. So please consider donate to Hector and to many other candidates. Obviously, our Latino candidates, but every candidate that you consider can help us to save democracy again and to improve our lives. And I would like to give you to let you with the last word today, Hector, to say goodbye and to leave everyone with a message.
Yeah, thank you for that. Listen, I think about my family a lot. Why they came here, what they believed was possible by the promise of this country. And I also think about what we owe the next generation. I think about my son. And, I would argue that America's strength has never come from Washington. It's come from our families, it's come from our communities, from people that show up and remember that we owe one another something. And I think if we can get back to that and pair that with real solutions, I truly, truly believe that our best days are still ahead.
Let's flip Florida 28.
Let's get it
Let's
done.
let's do this. Thank you so much, Hector. HectorMujica.com. Please go there right now and do whatever you can to help us to make this victory a big reality in November. Thank you so much, Hector.
Thank you, Ade. It's good to see you. We'll talk soon.
See you. Bye bye.
Ciao.